In my opinion, if we're shut down, you can't be fired. And what does that mean? It does mean that people will not be paid, but it does mean that they will get their back pay. So hopefully we can stop some of the bleeding. We just saw that the Department of Education laid off 50% of their workforce. So I don't really understand why anybody would say, oh, we got to take the high road. Listen, he is decimating the federal government. And you're talking about whether or not we're going to keep the doors open. He literally is shutting down departments anyway.
But do you have any concerns, Ambassador Rice, that this could potentially backfire on Democrats if, in fact, there is a government shutdown?
The issue is not blame and backfiring, leverage, or anything else. This is a legislative process. Democrats have a responsibility to their constituents and to the Constitution. That means they do not roll over and play dead. They negotiate and do what is in the interest of the American people. It is not in the interest of the American people to have Elon Musk raiding our private data, shutting down programs at whim, firing people, and essentially one man, two man running the entire federal government without Congress having a voice. Congress needs to be at the center of what is appropriated and what is spent. And that is what Democrats are rightly insisting on, not just to roll over and play dead for Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
We'll see what happens. The stakes clearly are enormous. Susan Rice, as usual, thanks very much for joining us.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the Democrats, who basically have folded to President Trump after pretending as if they had the cojones to shut the government down.
This is saying, let's just give up even more of our constitutional authority because, hey, he can do a lot worse later on. And so to me, that's capitulating to someone who's already showing that he's reckless and willing to do a lot of destruction. We are in a perverse, bizarro land where we're having to decide between letting Donald Trump wreck the government this way or wreck the government that way. So at what point do you say I'm going to stand and fight?
If you guys block this, it's going to be a shutdown, and you essentially could be playing with fire here.
Well, it will be a Republican shutdown.
But not all Democrats are on that same page. Senator John Fetterman, for one, has been the most outspoken in supporting the Republican plan because he wants to avoid a government shutdown. Democrats are concerned that that plan cuts domestic spending, does not rein in Donald Trump, does not rein in Elon Musk. But with the House out of town, the Senate, Republicans in charge of the House and the Senate, that may be their only choice to avoid a government shutdown, which is why we are hearing that there are a growing number of Senate Democrats willing to allow that House plan to become law and avert a shutdown by tomorrow night.
Okay, and as I talked about, and I said last night, I stated that Democrats trying to shut down the government would be a huge mistake. And this was so obvious that even John Fetterman could see it, right? Even John Fetterman, who is recovering from a stroke, even he knew that, hey, this is a bad idea, right? This is probably not a good look. Probably not a good look, which I think really is evidence of how much Trump derangement has cognitively impaired the Democrat Party as a whole, right? I'm just saying. And Chuck Schumer apparently has realized this, okay, because he basically is folding on shutting down the government. Now, again, there are a few reasons why this is just not a good move for Democrats. First and foremost, Democrats are just looking like huge hypocrites right now. All this boohoo, whining, crying about Doge and Elon Musk. Weren't Democrats just not too long ago when they used to be a party that at the very least said sane things, right? And their policies are a little bit different, but at least they said things that were sane. They said things that were reasonable. They were all about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, right? Including from Medicare, which right now they're boohoo, whining, and crying about Republicans doing.
We cannot keep our promises on Medicare. We simply must make the cuts in waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare so that the benefits and the premiums are untouched. We owe it to our seniors. We owe it to our country.
Yes, you do have to cut some programs. I think there's waste out there. I think there are programs that can and should be cut.
Again, we all agree we have to get rid of waste, fraud, abuse, duplication, obsolescence, and the rest. The GAO has given us a blueprint for that, and we subscribe to that. We all agree that we must reduce the deficit.
There's tremendous waste in government, and I think any Democrat who ignores the lessons, the lessons of those who voted, the lessons of the last election, makes a mistake. The people did want government to cut out the waste and to shrink.
Reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
We all know that government can be inefficient. We all know that the bureaucracy can be bloated. We all worked in the fucking White House. We tried to reorganize the government. We tried to find efficiency. It's hard to do.
And honestly, some of this is pretty annoying because it's some of the stuff we should have done.
Wow. Unbelievable. This timeline is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. You know, it never fails. When Democrats come out here and they boo-hoo-wah and cry about something, right? You can always find a clip of Democrats supporting the things that they're now against, right? You can always find a clip of it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. It's almost as if Democrats just have no principles whatsoever. They don't stand for anything except whatever in the moment helps them get elected. It's so obvious. It's so damn obvious. It doesn't matter what it is. Illegal immigration. All the videos of Democrats talking about how we need to build a wall. Obama was talking about how we need a moat, an alligator moat, which, by the way, I don't think is a bad idea. Shoot, Trump might want to steal that one. I'm just saying. Okay? Listen to the Democrats talk about gay marriage just 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It doesn't matter what subject it is. Abortion, same thing. This is how you know that Democrats have progressed off a cliff, bruh. They progressed off a cliff. They're not a reasonable party. They're just not. They're not. Anyways. Again, the second reason, okay, why Democrats are hypocrites is because they were the same people that were boo-hoo-wahing and crying about how destructive it is to shut down the government, right? When Republicans were arguing about spending, okay, and possibly shutting down the government, in which I think personally, right, if you're going to shut down the government, I think a good reason to do so is because our country can't afford to stay open, right? I think that's actually a reasonable reason to consider shutting down the government. But that's not what Democrats are doing right now. That's not the reason that they're using, okay? They wanted to shut down the government to stop Elon Musk and President Trump from continuing to cut from the government, even though if they would have shut down the government, it would have made it a hell of a lot easier for President Trump and Elon Musk to cut. But again, the Democrats, these are the same people who are telling us how bad government shutdowns are.
Republicans are marching America to a painful government shutdown.
But we need traditional Republicans to break with MAGA extremists so we can keep the government open.
Republicans' shutdown will cost 6,306 of her constituents their paychecks.
Put the bill on the floor for an up or down vote so we can end this MAGA Republican nightmare. And if you don't, you own this government shutdown.
And we could put the threat of a shutdown behind us. Our agreement would keep the government open, provide emergency aid for communities battered by hurricanes and other natural disasters.
It's about the harm that House Republicans will do to the American people if the government shuts down.
One Democrat said to me they feel like they have a mandate from their constituents to shut down the government.
Yes, there are some raising the possibility of shutting down the government in March.
We will use whatever power we have, and fundamentally, we're not going to vote for something that undermines the American people.
To withhold votes, do Democrats have the stomach?
I certainly hope so.
Again, the Democrats are just lost in the sauce, man. Again, like I said last night, this was not a good idea. Okay, Democrats were not going to be able to get away with shutting down the government. It was actually one of the dumbest things they could try to do, because at this point, Democrats were blaming President Trump for everything that happens in the economy and how everything is so terrible. And it's like, well, if Democrats shut down the government, things are going to get a lot worse if they shut down the government. And then at that point, they just can't point the finger at Trump and say, hey, he's the guy, he's the problem, even though, again, President Trump is fixing Biden's economy. That's what he's actually doing, and that's what they don't like, right? President Trump, pulling the rug from under all of the government spending that held up Biden's fake economy. So, again, I just knew that politically speaking, this was just a really dumb thing, and they never actually really go through with this stuff anyways. They were just talking. So now you have Crystal Ball, who is a far leftist, okay? Her and her husband, Kyle Kalinske, they're crashing out right now, right? Crashing out heavily over President Trump's administration. Yeah, she is demanding that Chuck Schumer resign, right? That is what she's demanding, okay? So the far left is going to be super upset about the Democrats folding.
Baby, this message for Chuck Schumer. This is your opportunity to actually have a damn spine. The way that they are saying you are folding and it ain't even been 24 hours yet needs to be studied on how weak you are as a leader.
Well, Chuck Schumer changed his mind real quick and has now announced that he is going to be voting in favor of the CR and the budget bill to keep the government open. John Fetterman is also a yes, but that doesn't surprise any of us because he has been siding with MAGA for a while now and needs to just switch parties. This is what I'm talking about when I say I am upset with the Democratic Party, because they are not united. There is no true leader. And now one of our supposed leaders is siding with MAGA. He was so strong the other day saying they were all united and it was a no. And if the Republicans were so strong, they could pass it themselves. What happened, Schumer? What the fuck happened? Who'd you talk to? What'd you get? Do we need to go through your financials? Were you threatened? What's changed?
Fire Chuck Schumer. I said Hakeem Jeffries needs to go. Well, guess what? Chucky baby needs to go too. Chuck Schumer needs to be fired. Enough of this caving. What is wrong with you people? You come over here caving. You had one chance. You had one job. You had one role. You had one assignment to do, and you couldn't even do that. And you caved like a bunch of little bees. You are just a shameful group of people.
Chuck Schumer is deeply unready for this moment. He is not equipped to lead this country during this Trump administration. He should resign immediately. He has no business being in the Senate, let alone being minority leader. Chuck Schumer, do the honorable thing and resign.
So let's listen to Chuck Schumer fold.
This week, Democrats offered a sensible way out. Fund the government for another month to give appropriators more time to do their jobs. Republicans rejected this proposal outright. Why did they reject it? Because Donald Trump doesn't want the appropriators to do their job. He wants full control over government spending. He isn't the first president to want this, but he's the first president to cower his party into submission, so that Republican rejection leads us to a decision. That Republican rejection leads us to a decision. And it's not really a decision, it's a Hobson's choice. Either proceed with the bill before us or risk Donald Trump throwing America into the chaos of a shutdown.
So Democrats are upset that Republicans didn't work with them, right? This is their excuse, okay? Republicans didn't include us on the bill, right? They didn't give us a say because the House GOP passed the bill. Their original plan, again, was to have the House GOP not be able to agree, okay, on keeping the government open. And they were hoping that that's what would lead to the shutdown, right? But when that didn't work out because Republicans actually decided to work together and the bill went to the Senate, apparently Democrats didn't plan for that, right? The leadership didn't plan for Republicans to actually agree, okay? Because the Republicans right now have a small majority. And again, that's what Democrats thought. That's what they were playing for. And they got fooled. Right. So now they got caught with their pants down, not prepared for what would happen if Republicans actually agreed swiftly. And then Mike Johnson basically recess the House until later this month, basically putting Chuck Schumer in a very tough position right now, because Democrats are the only people that are stopping the government from staying open. So they can't, again, like, they can't come out here and credibly blame the Republicans and Trump for the government shutting down. This is why he's folding. But, you know, this idea that Republicans must work with Democrats, why should Republicans work with Democrats on anything, especially when it comes to spending? Look at what the Democrats did the last 4 years. You ruined everything. You ruined the economy. This is why we have to go through pain right now, because Biden ruined the economy. Democrats screwed up. Democrats have no room whatsoever to ask for any input on anything right now, okay? The adults are in charge. Democrats can't even agree on basic biological facts in reality, okay? So they have no credibility whatsoever on any issue. Until they can get the basics right. Nobody wants to hear what Democrats have to say about spending. Nobody wants to hear what Democrats have to say about immigration or Ukraine or crime or trade or tariffs. Nobody wants to hear what Democrats have to say about anything at all, right? You guys figure out the basics, and then you can come to the table and maybe, just maybe, you might have some input, right? But since the Democrats screwed up the last 4 years, plus, again, they're not in tune with reality. They still have not found reality yet, okay? Yeah, the Republicans don't have to include you on anything at all, and they shouldn't, right? They shouldn't, unless they absolutely have to.
This, in my view, is no choice at all. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. And before I explain why, let me be clear about one thing. No one on my side of the aisle wants a government shutdown. Members who support this CR do not want a government shutdown. Members who oppose this CR do not want a government shutdown. Members who oppose this CR want the Republicans to take their responsibilities more seriously and to negotiate spending bills that will address the many needs of the American people. I respect them for that. Unfortunately, though, this Republican Party is the party of Trump. As bad as passing the CR is, as I said, allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people.
Nah, you're making the best choice for your party, right? You're not making the best choice for this country. But, you know, here's the thing. The far leftists are going to be upset, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, Democrats look weak. They look real weak, okay? Chuck Schumer out here yesterday pretending as if they're going to go through with the shutdown, blaming it on Trump just to come out 24 hours later in the fold. Yeah, you look weak. You look weak as hell. But the reason why Democrats look weak is because they should have never pretended as if they had the coordinates to shut down the government in the first place, right? They should have never pretended like they were going to do it. They were never going to do it. So what they should have did is that they should have just got on board and kept their mouth shut, right? That's what they should have did. What Democrats need to do is they need to learn that the smart thing is to get on board with the things that are popular among the American people, okay? When it comes to Trump agenda, that's what they need to be doing. But instead, they're just flat out protesting everything, okay? And they're doing anything they can to stand against Trump. And it just looks silly because they're standing against things they shouldn't be standing against, okay? And they're putting themselves in these types of situations. And it looks silly, unserious, and chaotic, right? The Democrat Party is a full-blown clown show, right? They are a comedy show at this point, okay? But just like a real life reality show, okay? It's real life, and that's the sad part about it. That's the sad part. So at this point, Democrats need new leadership, man. Like, I mean, from top to bottom, they need new leadership. This is piss poor leadership. I don't know who thought it was a good idea for the Democrats to come out here and pretend like they can shut down the government. No, like that is just a silly idea. You have no room whatsoever. You had no leverage. But again, this is what happens when you listen to the far leftists. Oh, you got to oppose Trump no matter what. Just shut down the government. And that's how you get Democrats coming out here and saying these things, even though they all do. They didn't have the coordinates to do it. They couldn't do it. They don't have the stones. So, more humiliation for the Democrats. It is unbelievable. The downfall of the Democrat Party should be written about in political science books, okay, in history books. We're witnessing a historic collapse of a political party in this country. This is why their approval rating is like the 20%. It's so bad because of stuff like this. So, hey, when you're Trump deranged, you're not yourself. And I think that is what the problem is with the Democrat Party. The Trump derangement is destroying them. It's destroying them. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.